Good morning. Today's topic is ethical violations and board discipline. I live in Georgia, but due to the fact that um, there was not any cases listed in Georgia on this, I got my information from the Tennessee Department of Health from January 2015 to December 2019, and this was listed on the Health Professionals Board of Discipline and Disciplinary Actions. I reviewed 59 months of disciplinary actions. During that time, there was only 9 months of disciplinary actions that was listed in the counseling profession. 28 of those were violations of continuing education, and then there were some licensure issues. According to Rimley and Hurley, 2020 on page 155, it's not the number of continuing hours of education that's so important, but what's really important is for counselors to stay abreast of the current literature, science, and research on the emerging issues that may come up. And I often think of examples. I'm a big advocate for individuals with autism, and I feel like sometimes we have so little information in the field of autism in the traditional mental health setting that it often gets overlooked. So that's just an example of something that's near and dear to my heart. According to the American Counseling Association Code of Ethics 2014, they stress the need for continuing education credits in the counseling profession in order for counselors to just be effective in the field of practice. Also, the Georgia Rules and Regulations Code 135-9 has guidelines for the expectations of continuing education in the state of Georgia and the acceptable documentation to prove that continuing education. Throughout the disciplinary actions from the Tennessee website, the one theme that I saw consistently was a concern for public harm as well as professional boundaries. Unprofessional conduct such as intoxication or student loans, there were a couple of disciplinary actions for that. In a more recent case, though, a counselor received disciplinary action because she attempted to adopt a client that she was providing services for. And this is kind of addressed in the American Counseling Association Code A.4 to avoid harm, and then in A.6 to maintain boundaries. She was cited for professional misconduct in that particular instance. The preamble of the American Counseling Association Code of Ethics discusses the importance of doing no harm. And although we don't know the particulars in this situation, it could be clear how her being in that position could have had an impact on the child. However, I can kind of sympathize with the fact, as a mom of 8 adopted children, I think it was admirable that apparently she wanted to do something for this child. But also, Georgia 135.7.01 addresses a couple of things. Just one second. Let me find my information. The discussion of dual relationships that could create a conflict of interest could impair the licensee's professional judgment, harm the client, or compromise the therapy, and I think that really is applicable in this case. Also, in the American Counseling Association Code of Ethics, the counselor is to avoid entering in a non-professional relationship with clients or former clients. And so their family members. and it applies both in person and electronic interactions or relationships. So I think this kind of falls under both of those. She had a reprimand put in her file, the counselor did, and was charged $500 plus some additional fees and had to do some continuing education. And I really kind of associate with this because I live in a small town and everybody kind of knows everybody. So I guess my question is, in a small town where you run into people at your local grocery store or department store, what is a good way to handle um, those public interactions without stepping over those boundaries?